My name is Joshua Gibbs with JJG Development. Let me just start by saying I thank you guys for taking the time to have this meeting to hear about some of the programs that we offer, and then also a little bit about my background and my company and actually what we do. The reason why I got into training was I went to a high school back in New York that was a trade school. So we would get our core curriculums, our sciences, our maths, our English, and then the rest of the day, what we would do is we would go into different trade shops. So my school had aviation class, business classes, had welding classes, engineering classes, cosmetology. It was probably about 10 different shops that we would learn from industry, I would say subject matter experts. So retired individuals will come from these different firms and come to our high school to teach us a trade. Since then, those programs has kind of been taken out of the high school because college wasn't just for everyone, so they gave us those two roads. My path was engineering. That's what my family background is in. My family business is heavy highway construction and engineering. So I kind of took that path. I had the opportunity to go to a major university, Syracuse University, to get my engineering degree, but I felt that I was tired of the books. I kind of just wanted to go out and kind of just learn it from a hands-on perspective. Even though I could afford to go there, my parents' bill, of course, but it would have also put a financial burden on them. That's a school that's about $150,000. So mathematically, it didn't make sense for me to come out of high school or go to a college and come out of college making 50 grand a year. It'd take me 30 years to pay that loan back without even owning an asset. So we started having those type of conversations. So what I started doing in high school was interning when I was about 15, 16. So in the summer, I would go out and worked for New York State DOT. And then after that, I went to work for a couple of different engineering firms just to get more exposure. So I would go out, let's say from June all the way till September, I would kind of shadow a professional engineer, a civil engineer, a mechanical engineer. I would also get to work with different presidents and CEOs of the company because I was one of the star students that was able to gain that access. And I would just, at that age, I didn't know where I got that gung-ho just to kind of figure out what my path was. Maybe it's from my older brothers or something, seeing the way that the paths that they took. So I always wanted to have a path already set up before I graduated. A lot of my friends, they didn't kind of plan that out. And it kind of slowed down their progress when they got to their mid-20s and into their 30s. What I can say out of the programs, once my high school, from like the 1980s to like the mid-1990s, I've probably seen 500-600 students that are doctors, engineers, that are lawyers coming directly out of my high school, all over the country, all over the world. So that was inspiring to us. And this was a public school. So seeing that, it kind of inspired me as a freshman and as a sophomore, the paths that they took. So just fast forward a little bit, I did those interns for 3 summers starting in my 10th grade. By the time I graduated, I had a job offer with an engineering firm as a junior apprentice engineer. So my first job was to inspect bridges and roads. So it was kind of the same concept. I would learn from the professional engineers. They would put me out on different job sites, learn how to read blueprints and so on and so on. And so from there, it just kind of took off. And then I kind of seen how doing those internships and doing those apprenticeships kind of just led me directly to that career without even having to go to college. I gained other certificates along the way that those engineers kind of put me on that track too. They said, you necessarily don't need a 4-year degree, but you can gain these certificates in order for you to get more experience and exposure to this field. And that's the route that I took. With that being said, I took all of that knowledge and information, or when I worked for those engineering firms over the 8 years that I did it, and I quit and I went back to my family business. So I took all of those skills and went back and took all of those contacts, and we became one of the top minority construction companies in upstate New York to this day. So that it kind of spawned into, determination. It kind of spawned into picking a career path early in order to bring back a legacy to my family. So that was always kind of like the goal for me, just to bring some enhancement,
That's amazing. I feel like there's so much value in the work you started so early, like internships,
Yes.
10th grade in the summer of your 10th grade and 10th grade year in high school really speaks a lot to your opportunities further down the road. I
Right.
wonder if, for students that might be considering this field, how much do you feel like that those internships played a role in like what came next for you?
I mean, first it was the people that was teaching me. I mean, you have to get it. They have to be willing to show you, what they know, and that was the big thing was them showing me, and them showing me the paths that they also took too. So willing participants was first, and that's what's made me such a willing participant, because I have so many great teachers that taught me along the way, that I always said that my first conversation with them, if you teach me what you know, I promise I will go back and teach 100, 200, 300 people through the rest of my life. And that was kind of what inspired them to really show, like, look, you can take me as a young Black male and show me what you've done, and I'll take that to whatever community that's out there. And that's kind of what I did.
That's amazing. And when you say the people that taught you, these were like the person that managed you at your internship or the CEO that took you under?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. And it really started with New York State DOT. So working for New York State DOT, I worked under the head engineer, and he kind of took me under his wing and then introduced me to all of the private sector work. So if I didn't take advantage of that opportunity, I don't think that they would have given anybody else a shot. And after I left, they gave a lot more people a lot more chances, just based upon the results that I had. So I didn't fumble it. I took full advantage of the opportunity that was given to me at that time.
It's amazing. Thank you for sharing. Team, if you have any questions, feel free to jump in.
Mr. Gibbs, I would love if you could also tell us how you made it to Texas and what you're currently doing. I know I was reading the article you sent me from Voyage Dallas, and it mentioned how the cold season is really long in New York, and that definitely influenced your transition to Texas. So just a little bit more about how you came to the great state of Texas.
I'll say this first. Everyone says that New Yorkers are kind of, I don't know, we have this attitude about us, but we know that winter's coming. So we're always on the go, because we know we got 6 months of winter that is coming up, and we're going to be locked in the house with not too much to do. So every New Yorker has this mentality to get it, to go. We have a rush mentality. With that being said, I was taught from a aspect of accounting and business. So what you guys do on a summer season from construction language in 10 months, 11 months, we got to do it in 6. So we have to be a lot more accurate, and we have to be a lot more organized into how we get things done before winter comes. So with that being said, that's kind of why I made the transition down to Texas, because it added 4 more months to our bottom line of business. So instead of 6 months, we get 4 more months of revenue. So when I came here, I was trying to find a workforce. We had some City of Dallas contracts. I had some airport contracts that I procured, and I also had some county work and a couple other different opportunities. And I couldn't find skilled labor. It was the hardest thing. I could not find people to operate the heavy equipment, to manage the projects, to do simple estimating, to do simple blueprint reading. I probably went through 100 different resumes. We just couldn't find those right fits. So what I had to start doing was flying all of our workers from New York down to Texas. So what that does to your bottom line in business, that increases expenses, because I got to house them. I got to pay them those New York wages, because what we get paid in New York is probably $40, $50 an hour versus 10 to 12 down here. It's a little bit different. So those expenses started to add up. So I just went back to my days of, going through the training program, and I started writing curriculum in regards to, because it needed to help me from a selfish standpoint on the business side, but I also thought about all of those that needed the opportunity to get into this industry. Because if you don't know anyone in construction, you're not, if it's a legacy business. So basically, if you don't have family, friends, contacts, there's no way that you can walk off the street and work on any one of these construction sites out here. It's very together, I should say. So I started writing this curriculum in regards to heavy equipment training. And I went to a meeting with the Association of General Contractors. And a lady got up on stage and was asking about how do we bring more youngsters, how do we bring more people to the industry? So when she got off stage, I waited till she got to the end. I said, I picked up what I had with me and I showed it to her. And I said, I've always been thinking about giving back and also starting a training program. And I told her my idea really in a quick 5 minutes pitch. And she said, well, let me let you talk to my director. I didn't believe it. I didn't think she was gonna call. A week later, she called. I'm sitting in the office at University of Texas, Arlington. And they sent out a representative and I showed them all of the curriculum that I had. And it took about a year, 2 years, a year and a half, I would say. This was in 2014. And they called me a year later and said, hey, we want you to subcontract with us and apply your program over here at the university. And I started that in March of 2016. That was my first class of 30 people. In a nutshell, that's how it went. And then after that, I ran the program as a subcontractor for them for 2 years. And then UTA didn't want to do it anymore. So they said, you know, if you want to take over the contract, you can bid on this yourself. So I went and I bid the contract directly to the Department of Transportation and I ended up getting it and I've had it ever since. I've run 14 classes over about 400 students to date. We've probably placed about 80 to 90% of those students in the construction industry. Women, minorities, you name it, from different jobs, from surveying, not just a guy with a shovel, equipment operators, and so on and so forth. And I have gained the relationships with the contractors, given what we train those students in, to where they are more acceptable of taking students from my training program, because we're teaching them how to actually read.
That's amazing, Mr. Gibbs. Thanks for sharing. I'm curious, when you were partnered with UTA, were your students part of like their construction management program, or construction engineer students that also wanted to get certified in this area, or was it anybody who wanted to?
Yeah, so UTA has a workforce development arm off of the university, I would say, curriculum, I would say. And I work with the workforce development department over there. And so what we had to figure out was, how do we gain access or gain interest from people to get into the construction industry? So I had to come up with a marketing plan in order to attract, you know, those workers. So we came up with the marketing plan. We started to actually get, based on this marketing plan, 300-400 applicants for 20 spots on every class. So I had to figure out how to turn down candidates that weren't fit for, you know, for the industry. So I became a subject matter expert on that, on picking the candidates that were right for the field, because they really didn't know how to approach it, just based upon this legacy business and how things have been done down here in Texas. Is know someone and you're in. If you don't know someone, you're not in.
Are you currently looking at the same, like similar numbers of applicants versus spots that you're able to offer with your partnership with the transportation?
Yeah, so I'm only allowed, not allowed, but given the grant that I have that I run every year, I can do 90 students per year, which is a small amount. I have the ability to do over 1,000 students per year. It's just a matter of funding. It's just a matter of, you know, politically, it's a lot that's going on right now, so that kind of just slowed it down. We're ending our fiscal year right now, so we just had our last class down there in the Houston area, so they cut our class participants in half. But we're up for renewal, so we're going to run probably another 180 over the next couple years and over the next 5 years. So we're looking at a long-term plan right now. It's just a matter of funding right now. We can do it as a company. It's just you know, it's only so much that, it's only so many people that we can sponsor at a time. What I can say is this: I am in the process of working with Dallas County Community Colleges locally here, and we're putting together a grant program for the heavy equipment training, also with different certs and certificates from construction technology and construction management programs. So to kind of give the students two paths. Either you want to go to college route with a 2-year degree, maybe onto a 4-year degree, but you can start here with our program and just kind of just learn from the apprenticeship perspective, just the basics, and you can do your night school classes and so on and so forth. But now I'm trying to reach down a little bit further into the high school students to kind of get them on board, the 10th graders, the 9th graders earlier, so they can kind of come up with their plan a little bit earlier. We do have the capacity to also offer the program to the 14 and 15-year-olds. They just can't operate the equipment, but I can show them from a curriculum perspective some of the other things, the soft skills that they can gain.
What is the age minimum for them to be able to operate the equipment?
18.
Okay.
18. Mm-hmm. But there is some to operate equipment and get a job is 18. All right. But coming through the program, they can be, you know, just high school age. That's fine. They can get on the equipment and learn the equipment. Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mentioned to the team, Mr. Gibbs, a couple meetings ago that when I talked with you and David, I just really enjoyed how like real you were with him, and you told him like, you know, these are the numbers, this is what all goes into it. And you also mentioned the need for young workers or young students going into the field, since I remember the age, I can't remember the age you said.
Yes. So what we find a lot out here is that the average age of construction worker is 47. So they're aging out now. You've had guys that have been on a shovel and the same piece of equipment for the past, you know, 20, 30 years, and they haven't upgraded their skill level. So I'm looking to always, before we accept students in, I'm looking to see what is their trajectory. How are they going to upgrade their skill level? There's no, I can't give you a scholarship in my program for $6,000 if you're just going to stay on a shovel the rest of your life. I mean, just honestly, we're looking for that certain type of individual that has the capacity in order for them that they want to grow, like they want to make a lot more improvements than just staying stuck, because we can't, as an industry, we can't grow if we don't have smart minds to take over the helm. So a lot of the young, I would say, generational owners that are coming up, that are my age, they don't want to do this business. They don't want to run the family business anymore. So they have to look to outside sources in order for them to find those individuals to take the helm. We're short on construction managers. We're short on diesel mechanics. We're short on operators. We're short on surveyors. I mean, and none of these jobs take a college degree in order to do it. But what they can do is enhance their, I would say, skills by getting those 2-year degrees. I mean, we're looking at, I can say, the average person that comes out of a 2-year degree into the construction field can make $80,000 off the right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for David specifically, let's say if you could just give us a scenario, a high school student graduating and goes into your program, how would that be like from beginning to end? How does it usually work for a student, so we can get an idea of the timeline? Okay.
David turns 18 in March, so I will be having my next Dallas class around that March, April time, which is hiring season for a lot of construction companies. At that time, after he goes through the 10-day course, all right, and our courses includes the following. It's not just equipment operated. The only reason why I started the equipment operation is because it gives people something to look at. Oh, it's cool. I want to operate this big equipment. I see it on the highway. I never known anything about it. It's like looking at a big roller coaster. You want to ride it. So that's what attracted a lot of the youth, was just that simple thing, just putting that big equipment out there and saying, hey, you can operate that and I will show you how to do it, right? But then once they got into class, they learned that it was totally different. I said, do you read? Do you take the garbage out at home? Do you have a dustpan? Do you have a key? Do you have a car? What are you looking to do? Because if you can't get to work, you're not taking care of responsibilities at home, you're not going to do anything to take that out of your home out here to a job. And these guys are going to be looking for you. If you're not good with your money, I can't let you estimate my projects. So it's little simple things that once they get in, they kind of figure out, look, it's more to it than just a job. So after they go through the 10 days, I have a job fair. So basically I'm already contacting, you know, all of the big construction companies, even the small level construction companies. I'm having superintendents, project foremans, HR people come out to the job sites. They're contacting us directly to see what individuals might fit in their company needs. So half the time, by the time before the second week starts, they already have 10, 15 interviews already lined up. And then from there, they just kind of figure out what path and what company makes sense for them. Some of the things that really stands out is that 98% of the workforce is Hispanic. 98%. 50% are illegal. So that is a big, I would say that is one of the biggest hampers for large construction companies, because they don't make blueprints in Spanish. So it's kind of geared towards one demographic, but not. And when we talk to the contractors, we're telling them they can't get their projects done also too, just because of the reading and writing capabilities of all of the workers and the type of educational backgrounds that they come from. So you guys wonder why you sit in Dallas traffic a lot longer. Why is this project taking forever? It is because we have such a turnover ratio in the construction industry. They can't keep the workers. The population growth is growing so big. I mean, it's 1,000 cars moving here per day. So, and we can't build the roads fast enough. So we're 1 million workers short just here in the Texas area, you know, alone. So just all of those different aspects plays a part into what we're trying to provide in terms of the training. And that goes back to the earlier that we can get these participants started in the industry, the earlier that we can get them that experience level. From 17 to 25, you know, they got 8 years of experience already in the door, and they can kind of mix up that experience with the back office stuff, I would say, which is the college degree, the 2-year programs, the 4-year programs, getting all of their certificates, so they can be way ahead of the game. So I find that the younger the student is, the more exposure that he has to the industry, the longer he will stay in the industry versus getting a warehouse job, a restaurant job, or retail job.
What is the, you mentioned the new program starts like in March, April, like that's usually the busy. What is the time commitment in terms of like the hours per day, the length, all of that somebody in the program would go through? Okay,
I'll give you the scenario of, say they show up for class on a Monday. All right, we first do our 10-hour OSHA course. So they'll get their OSHA, they'll get their work zone. Those are some of the main certificates that you need from a safety perspective before you can get out there on the job site. We also offer them first aid, CPR training. We also do the certificate of flagger. So those orange barrels and all of those signs you see out there, before you can even go out to the job site, you have to understand those type of aspects of the job. That's Monday, Tuesday. On Wednesday, they're getting all of their field equipment. So I supply them with boots, I supply them with hard hats, vests, all of their safety gear. We're going over all of our safety talks. And then on that afternoon on Wednesday, we're starting all of our field operations training. All right, so and that will run from Wednesday to Friday of that first week. And then we'll come back on that Monday, and we'll go from that Monday all the way to that Thursday. So that second week, from that Monday to that Thursday, that's when I'm doing all of my blueprint reading classes. I'm doing all of my estimating classes. I'm doing all of my preventative maintenance classes, meaning all of my students that are looking from a mechanical side of things. And also they're doing in between all of that also too, job interviews, job sourcing, you know, figuring out. I'm a big proponent of money management. We also have a class on that too. You know, I can give you a job for $25 an hour, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't know what to do with it. So and some other aspects as to don't just look at the hourly pay, you have to look at the long-term benefits of, where is this going to take you? So that's kind of the class in a nutshell. And then the Friday is when we're kind of just saying, okay, who's hired by who has interviews set up for the following week? What are your plans over the next 30, 60, 90 days? Because we have to do follow-ups every 30 days with these participants for at least a year. And that's probably one of the hardest aspects, is getting people to respond, once they get back off into off to the world. So I'm taking the time to call all my individual students, even from years ago, just to see where they are. So that's also a part of my job.
We feel your pain, Mr. Gibbs. We follow up with them after they finish middle school with us, all the way through post, high school and college at many times. So we know the challenges. Technical question. You said, so it sounds like these 2 weeks are like intensive. I'm looking for like a student who's currently in high school might not be able to participate in the March, April timeline. What are your cycles? What are the next cycles for people that are either in college or high school and might not be able to join that?
Okay, my program runs around the state, so we're pretty much border to border. I probably run, next year I'm gonna run about 6 classes between the Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin. I have a couple different regions that I'll be expanding to. Currently right now, we run most of our classes between Dallas and Houston. That's one of the bigger markets based upon the capacity of work and also what the contract and the need for just workers just in general. Now, let me tell you this. People always ask me, why do the contractors hire your participants? So they hire them is because I interview 300 people individually, one-on-one, before I even select the 20, the 15, the 20 students to come into our program. And the reason why I do this is because in the end, that student is a reflection on the training that he received. And if I know that they can't make it to the finish line, I know that they only have one shot. And with this group that we work with, one student, 2 students, it can be a detriment to the next 10 that might come through. I can't make those recommendations for them just based upon previous performance. So they'll go back to what they already had working, for them. So I have to reverse, what I've learned is I have to reverse what's going on out there on the job site, which is it takes 5 workers to do one person's job. I have to take one person and do 5 people's job just because they're coming from my program. So I gotta be 1,000 times better because my reputation rides on that. Plus I work a lot with these contractors too. So their level of expectation of the people that come through the program is a little bit of a higher standard, especially when you're talking about, operating heavy equipment. They want me to have experts out there by the time they come from 10 days. And I said, I just can't do that. This takes years to get that. So that's why I'm kind of very particular about who we take into the program.
That's helpful. Thank you. Go ahead.
Can you speak a little more of like the interview process and like what are some of the things that you're looking for in your candidates?
Yeah. Did you properly fill out the application? How did you spell your name? Did you put down the correct phone number? Does your email represent who you are? This is not an Instagram email. This is not a friend-to-friend email. It needs to state something that looks a little bit more professional than what you might talk with your friends about. So just those small things is and how responsive that you are, especially dealing with our admin team. How do you structure your email? Do you structure your email as a text message, with the WYD or what you're doing, like those small things is some of the things that I look for because they have to get through me. The contractors are not going to have any mercy on them at all. Do they show up and pass their drug test? Because they have a drug test. Are they prompt with that? how responsive they are with their emails, with the admin teams, if we're missing something on their application. So just, if you can't get past those small things there, you can't proceed on to the next step, which is even getting to the drug test. After that, what I do is I have an evaluation with them once they get to that point. Once they pass their drug test, I'll have an evaluation. So I'll go through a list to see 18, driver's license, work history, if any at all, stability. You know, I kind of go into, you know, home situations, because those play a part if you're going to show up to work and you're going to be, I would say, all the way tuned in as to what your task is. So I dig a little bit into those things before, I mean, because you're operating a piece of equipment that can kill people. So this is not something that, you know, or in being on the construction site, just being aware. You know, you're working on a highway, you have to be aware. So just those little things are some of the things that we look for. I hope that doesn't sound too,
No.
it's
No,
just,
that's helpful. I think we're
yeah.
thinking in terms of like, if we do have students that are interested, we want to make sure we coach them through those things, like
Yeah.
pay attention to your application, right? Like be
Right.
very diligent in the steps that you're taking to show that you are serious about this opportunity. So that's helpful. I did have another question about how often or how common do you get like women to participate? Because I'm thinking that's not an area that most of our girls think about, but it's definitely an area that pays well, that can offer a lot of advancement opportunities that our girls should maybe consider.
Oh, I have daughters. So our best students are the women, because women pay attention to detail. So they're very detail oriented, they're very responsive, and they run circles around the guys out there on the job site. It's bar none. I haven't seen, all of my top students are women, all of them. I probably get about, I would say 25% applicants that are women, and they come from previous women that have come through the program. So once people come through the program, they kind of recommend people to come behind them. We market directly to them. We're actually going to have a couple classes set up next year just for women. The contractors are even more excited to hire them, just because of those small details there. They just pay attention to detail. I mean, men just want to get on the equipment and just run around in circles, and, you know, they're not getting anything done. So yeah, definitely. And there's a lot more funding that's coming out for women in construction. And also too, is that I encourage the women to also look into other aspects of construction, like surveying, like material testing, like bridge and road inspection. Those are some of the things that don't require college degrees, and it's a lot cleaner job, and it gives them a lot more authority also out there on the job site too.
Mr. Gibbs, go ahead, Victoria.
I was on mute. This Zoom. Okay, so I have a student that comes to mind. She wants to get into construction management, and I heard you said that you're doing like a partnership with Dallas College in construction management. Now, she has a family. So my question is to all my students who have families, because like I said, I work with 2-year students. A lot of them, college is not for them. They're doing the certificate route. They want to get in. They need to make money so they can supply for their family.
Yes.
So I'm trying to word this correctly. So is like your program like family friendly, like people who have like families and things like that? Because you said it's very extensive. So just for my students who have families, is it family friendly, family oriented?
Oh yeah.
Want to go that route?
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's why I go back to some of the interview questions, so I can see how we can work around any of those, not even barriers, just through how do we make the schedule work for them. Especially with kids and childcare and things like that. We actually give them a stipend for those things during the 10 days to pay for their childcare and or transportation, you know, just to get them through. I mean, and that's the reason why it's so short, because I can't take, you know, more than 2 weeks out of your time, because that's 2 weeks of lost revenue to me. So you gotta come through quick. and you got to get back to work, you know, so whatever that takes to figure that out, I mean, that's what we figure out. However, I can help personally. I mean, I do that. I do that also too. So we figure out how to for them to make the arrangements with their kids, wife, girlfriend, or whatever it might be, in order for them to, you know, participate, you know, at that time. So that's why that interview process is so key, because the first thing I go for is the families, because if that person doesn't get a job, they can't support their family, you know. So we're trying to always figure out, you know, different paths.
Thanks, Mr. Gibbs. In terms of cost of the training, are there, you mentioned a grant, but I don't know if that means that fees and everything else is covered for them to get that 2-week training. And then my second question is, what are the typical like starting hourly pays when your students do get hired?
Okay, the only fee that's associated with it is your time. 10 days of commitment of your time. That's all it is. Everything else is covered by Federal Highway. So Federal Highway runs the grant through TxDOT. TxDOT in turn pays me in order to run the school. In terms of hourly pay, I've had students come out of the program making 18, 20. I've had some that are less experienced or that need a little bit more time, anywhere from, I would say, 14 on up. I try to set the bar at $16 an hour though. So across the board. And the reason why that is because there's an industry standard here in the labor market, all right? And that goes with saying you got 100 contractors around here. They can't outprice the competition in terms of labor, or else they'll lose the workforce. So if one company is paying 14 over here, they might have another brick project come up on 35, they might be paying 15. Half the workforce is going to make that other dollar. Then you got another contract that comes up and they're paying 17, 18. All those workers are gonna go from that job over to this job. So this is like musical chairs in this industry. So all of the contractors basically try to control a level of what the pay scale is based upon what they're providing.
Thank you.
But 15 minimum though. 15 minimum is where I try to get them just to start with that.
Okay, thanks for that. I want to be mindful of time. If nobody else has any questions, nope. Please, would love to close this out with like any wisdom you would want to share with students who are watch this, or any tips or recommendations or anything that you'd like to leave.
There's a lot of opportunity here in this industry, and there's room for a lot of growth. I mean, you can pretty much start off as a, you know, with a rake or with a shovel and end up as a project manager or superintendent without having to take the college path. If you do, it will give you even more of an opportunity to get onto the civil, the technical side of things. The quicker that you get out of the field, the more longevity that you'll have in this field. Meaning that you don't want to be a laborer forever, because like I said, by the time you're 40, 50, you won't be able to walk, just given, you know, the strenuousness of the work, and then also with the weather, the heat, and so on and so on. So you have to have a path as to what route that you want to take. So that's what makes our program so much more unique, is because we try to give people, you know, as many options, unlimited options as possible, but they have to, you know, start somewhere. And another thing is, I have a lot of young students that come in and they automatically want to be a business owner or be a boss just because that's what the title is. But if you don't understand, you know, the job all the way from the janitor all the way up, I can't even hire you for it. So you have to do every single job in order to get to, you know, that level of where you're trying to go. You just have to just put in the work. Or you can just simply take a warehouse job and, you know, make 15, 16 bucks an hour and stay right where you are. So that's kind of where we are in this industry is, you know, it's either you have to put up, or you can just sit on the sidelines and I'll just give you a shovel or a flag over here. That's no problem too, because we can still use you in some type of capacity. But if you want to make something of yourself in this industry, it is, you know, get as much education and knowledge as possible through different programs, you know, if you can. I encourage them, get your CDL. I mean, if you're 18, get your CDL. Get get your OSHA cards, get your TWIC cards, whatever area you in. I mean, this stuff doesn't cost nothing but a little bit of study and a little bit of time. And a lot of these things actually can be done while you're in high school. So it's a lot of certificates that can be completed before they even graduate. And that can kind of just put them ahead of what the industry is already used to. So it's just more about us as a company, just educating the millennials in regards to, you know, the construction industry. It's not a dirty industry. It's not a industry, there's no growth. There is a lot of money to be made in construction. I mean, just ride down the highways, just look at any commercial site development. You'll see it's endless, and we just need more workers. But you know, if we don't have anybody to bring to the industry, it's an industry that I would say we're going to take less workers and pay them more to do more.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gibbs. We really appreciate your time, and we're excited to connect you or your voice or this video with other students. So thank you. Appreciate you.